Well, good morning, everybody. You can tell that Jim and I are very dedicated to Steelers football because it's 5:15 a.m. here Eastern time. And Jim, welcome to the Still Study podcast. How you doing?
Good, Jeremy. We are just dedicated to life.
There we go. There we go.
We have too little time. As Jimmy Johnson said at his Hall of Fame speech, quality time left. You have to assess how much quality time left you have.
I agree 100%.
I had to get up and do a podcast so I could have a great day.
There you go. There you go. And it doesn't make it any easier to roll out of bed at 4 a.m. But glad to have Jim here with us today. And just want to let the listeners know here on the Still Study that Jim and I are actually going to be partnering for a podcast on Jim's website, the Still City Insider. This will be a podcast exclusive to Jim's site. It's going to be called Steelers Insider. And we'll have more information coming to you about that. But very excited for what Jim and I are going to be doing together with that podcast. So definitely looking forward to that. But Jim's got a great experience. He was with the Polamalu family in Canton this past weekend. I'm sure you have some great stories from that. So Jim, how was Canton? How was Steelers Nation taking over the Hall of Fame?
Okay, well, I hope your expectations aren't too high here. I was invited to be with the family and friends to sit in their section, and I went to Canton on Thursday because of the game, and I just could not bring myself to go to the game when I was told that we would only have a mob around a group, a guy, and that video goes everywhere, and then you have one player, the same thing. The video goes everywhere. Everyone gets the same quotes. There's no advantage to being there. I hope that's not what the NFL is turning into via COVID. So I did not go. I saw the game better on TV in my Canton hotel room. I did not go to the game. It's a big parking fiasco. So I did not do that. But I thought I wrote a good column off the game, and I thought the team played well. There was a lot to like about that game, and we can get into that in a little bit. The next day, Troy was not going to be at the Gold Jacket dinner, and so I did not go to that. I don't want to dismiss Bill Cowher and Donnie Shell and Alan Faneca the next night. And I stayed in my room and did a really long Bill Nunn piece. Talked to 5 scouts, made a roundtable discussion out of it, and it turned out really well. As I was thinking, geez, Troy's not even coming to the Gold Jacket dinner, so I'm not going to that. So that's 2 days sitting in my hotel room in Canton, which is only an hour and 15 minutes from my home, 2 hours, something like that. So I had nothing to report to you on that, but I did write a good story, and I'm thinking, wow, did I come here? I always think there's a reason for my footsteps being directed, and I could not find that reason. And then I did not hear from anyone in the family. I was not invited to any post-speech parties, even if there were any. I really, what is my purpose here? So I wrote this great story, which I thought was great. Okay, so the next day, go and by myself. And for one thing, I get media passes to sit in the press box for free for all of this stuff.
Right.
And when Troy invited me, the ticket was like $150. Okay, so do I sit with them or do I sit in the press box for free? Well, let's sit with them. Let's pay the dollars. And okay, so I do that, and I'm in the last row of Section A. Behind Sally Wiggin. I don't know if you know who she is.
Yes.
You're a Pittsburgh guy.
Yep.
Everyone in Pittsburgh knows Sally Wiggin. So we were the only 2 journalists, and I didn't see any of the family. They must have been up front. So I sat in the back, and I saw all the players. I'm like, oh, there's. I had a list of all the guys, and when I saw Kendrell Bell, I said, I'm not going to remember him. I better start writing this stuff down. So there was like 20 guys, and they were all high-fiving each other, hugging each other. Ryan Clark, Brian McFadden, Chris Hope, James Harrison, Ike Taylor, Max Starks, James Ferrier, Casey Hampton. I think I wrote 20 names down. When I saw Kendrell Bell, I'm like, wow, is that old Kendrell Bell, the old rookie of the year? And so I didn't want to approach them, and it was the entire gang that called back for my book and gave me interviews and were very helpful. And we have a respectful relationship. I get along with all those guys, but I don't want to pretend I'm their friend. So I don't come up to them and high five them. So I continue to sit and do nothing. So I really have nothing to report for your podcast, except I saw Kiesel. Well, first of all, I saw Mike Miller, the star of the first chapter. One of the reasons Troy Polamalu was even up there. And I thought nobody sitting in this entire Polamalu section, unless they've read my book, knows the importance Mike Miller played. Mike Miller was a low-level offensive assistant coach. Probably one of his biggest jobs was probably to get coffee. I don't know. He was at the bottom rung, and he was there 3-4 years. He had a chance to speak at the mock draft, and he, as they say, pounded the table for Polamalu. And they, that night, looked at the tape that he was telling them, begging them to look at. And the next morning, they were talking. He enters the facility for the draft, and the people who were mocking him, his boys, were mocking him, saying, "You embarrassed yourself. Nobody drafts a safety that high. Why did you say he's Ronnie Lott? Why do you think he's already going to the Pro Bowl? You just embarrassed yourself." Well, the next day, after listening to all that from his, I'm assuming they were lower level guys. It wasn't, the offensive coordinator saying these things. Mike was told, "Well, you're getting your wish." He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "They decided to trade up. We're trading up with Kansas City to get your boy. I hope you're happy." And of course, everybody was. And Mike played a key role. And Mike's out of coaching. He went on to be the offensive coordinator for the Larry Fitzgerald, Kurt Warner Cardinals. He was the wide receiver coach in the Super Bowl. He had also recommended they draft James Harrison, sign him after the draft. He tells the story in that book of how mean James Harrison was to the scouts at his workout. And Miller said, "If this guy's as tough on the field as he is off, you might want to just sign this guy. He's very different." And so I have him quoted after Harrison's 100-yard return to beat Mike Miller's Cardinals. He goes, "Boy, I'm so glad I talked them into drafting Harrison." So anyhow, Mike Miller, who's not in coaching right now, he was in the XFL. He was there, and I had to go say hi to him. Somebody had to recognize him for why we were all there. And he was sitting by himself, kind of. Well, no, he was with somebody. That's right. And so I went up and shook hands with him, and he was glad to see me because he keeps hearing from people who read the book, and he really loves his part in that. And he told the story perfectly. Then I saw Brett Kiesel. Now, I feel like I am friends with Brett Kiesel. He is that kind. I feel like I'm friends with some of them, but I don't want to push that. While they were having so much fun hugging each other, nobody, I'm a reporter. I know my lane.
Right.
But I go up to Kiesel and I pat him. He's so tall, and I pat him. I said, "Hey, big guy." And he turns. He goes, he sees my new beard. He pats it. He's got a beard, and it's not like it always is, but he pats it. He goes, "Wex, you got to feed that thing." And then Troy came out to get his gold jacket. That was at the beginning of the ceremony. So I said, "Proud to have watched this with you, Keith." And we were standing in the middle of the aisle. So those are my stories. That's it. That's of my interjection into all this. So I really, I thought I would write a column, but there was nothing to write because Troy got up there and nailed the speech. And it was so precise. A lot of times I worried that Troy would spend 6 of his 8 minutes thanking people because he's such a gratitude guy. And I have nothing wrong with that, but I want to hear from Troy. He's got a lot of wisdom, and he's always been really humble to let that wisdom out. And sometimes when he did let that wisdom out, it turned into him calling the league the Pansy League, and all kind of blowback coming at him. And then he looks at us and says, "Hey, last time I talked to you guys from my heart, I had to answer the phone for 3 straight days, whatever. And I had to go to New York and talk to Goodell. We're
Right.
not talking anymore from the heart. So he's wise. He's wise enough to know to be quiet.
Right.
In the NFL locker room for the most part. So I thought this speech would be a great time for him to talk from his heart. So he had to mix the gratitude, which Troy has to be thankful. It's just who he is. And in only 8 minutes. And he mixed the two perfectly, telling stories while giving gratitude. And he's had a mixed family. He's had a mother and an aunt who raised him as a mother. He's had several father type figures. Now, is he going to not recognize the father who left him? Troy is not the kind of guy to say to leave someone out. So he did away. He did all the mothers and fathers and cousins and older brothers. So he got everybody while he told a story, and it condensed the verbiage and it allowed him to pack a wallop into his 8 minutes. I felt it was brilliant. One of the greatest speeches of all time, the Gettysburg Address, was how many minutes? Very concise. And so and the part about when he said, if you wear the black and gold, and if you're good enough, maybe they'll say you could have played for us. And he looked at Franco, and Franco nodded, and Troy chuckled. And it seemed to me that Franco had told Troy, you could have played with us. Yeah. Because Franco was on the stage with the other gold jacket guys. Right. And, for Troy to work that line, which I thought turned into the best line of his speech, you could have played for us. Yeah. It seemed like he made an adjustment on the fly and put that in. It just, my sense is that Franco said that to him just right before the speech. Right. And Troy could have played for them. Yeah. I don't know who would have sat the bench. Would Donnie Shell have made the Hall of Fame? Would Troy have played over Donnie Shell? Would he have just been a nickelback? Would Mike Wagner have sat? Would the chemistry have been messed up of that great team? Right. But I think that set a precedent, because now Troy and Ryan Clark and James Harrison and Ike Taylor can say to the next group, to Minka, to Trey Norwood, you could have played for us, because this is a proud team too. All the guys that I just mentioned who were there to see Cowher and Troy. They won 2 Super Bowls, played in the third in a condensed amount of time. It was a great era in its own right. Right. So I thought that was a great line by Troy.
Yeah. And, when I look at that speech, I almost felt like Troy established the criteria of what it means to be a Steeler, and almost as if it was a message for the younger generation of players, the Fitzpatricks, the Devin Bush, to say, hey, when you put on that uniform, or I forget what term he used, almost like
he just said the black and gold.
Yeah. It just saying that you accept this responsibility to not desecrate your team, to represent the city. So I felt like there was some messaging to the younger players, whether that was intended or not, we don't know. But out of all the speeches from the Steelers inductees, I felt like Polamalu's was the best. I was expecting a little more from Cowher, and not to say that it wasn't a good speech, but in terms of just heart and intensity, I felt Polamalu took the day. And then kind of backtracking a little bit to the Hall of Fame game, we finally got to see the team in action. 16-3 victory. You can't glean too much, being that, it's the first preseason contest, but you've had the opportunity to see all the training camp practices. So I guess your take from what you've seen in practice from some of the younger guys, or the untested depth, matched up with what you saw in the game, and who were your standouts so far up to this point? Anybody in jeopardy of not making the roster who possibly was a lock prior to the start of camp, and anybody who's kind of jumped out in front to really carve a niche for themselves?
Wow. I got to think back to my notes. I should have reviewed. I thought I'm not going to answer your questions in any order because I can't remember all of the questions, but I thought the young offensive lineman played well. in particular Dan Moore at left tackle. You know, when he got out in front of that screen, he looked like a beast out in front, and he looked like he was moving. He was going somewhere. He knew where he was going. He got there, made the block, allowed Deontay Johnson, I believed it was, to get a really nice game. And that went with his beastly run blocking. He really is a strong man, and he's aggressive and tough. And, you know, we've seen him in several fights with Cam Hayward. He does not back down. And you can see that tenacity in his play and his pass blocking, which had been a question of mine against speed rushers, was effective. I mean, I don't believe he got beat at any point. Now, I can't say I know who the pass rusher was he was blocking. You get to know that, like the Philadelphia game. I'm going to find out who the Philly left tackle is blocking Alex Highsmith, because it's time to investigate Alex Highsmith a little more. Right. How good is he? Because he's showing us he's good. I mean, he ran by Dan Moore all spring, and that's where I got the problem with his getting out of his stance and blocking speed rushers. And so I want to see Alex Highsmith play against a good tackle and then see. But I don't think we were seeing that with Dallas. Nobody was really playing starters or very good starters.
Right.
No offense. But I thought Dan Moore looked good. Kendrick Green, the rookie center, looked good. Kalen Ballage, you know, I don't know that it's a big surprise that Jalen Samuels is in the fight of his life. So that's one guy. And I don't think Benny Snell has to worry yet. I don't know they're going to cut down further. But a guy like Kevin Rader now, that incredible block at the goal line, just drove the guy across the TV screen and then down on the ground as Kalen Ballage scored it. I believe it was Ballage that scored on that play. Yeah. Scored a touchdown run. And then Rader caught a short pass and ran with authority, and also caught a pass in the back of the end zone that was ruled out of bounds, or was that a practice? Am I mixing it all together?
Yeah, that
he has made some great catches that really haven't been official. Let's put it that way. He made that great catch to win the semifinal in his 1AA college football playoff when he was coming out at Youngstown State. It's on YouTube. Kevin Rader, the catch. You'll see it. So he showed a lot. And now I don't believe, people are telling me they'll cut Zach Gentry. I don't believe that. He's 6'8". He's a slower developing guy because he was a quarterback in college. So it's taken him time to put on weight and to get accustomed to being a rugged blocker. And he's got the soft hands. So I don't think they're going to give up on him because he's added some size. So Kevin Rader now becomes a potential fourth tight end. Do they keep four? You know, if Rader keeps playing like he did, then you can't deny that. Somebody would pick him up. They couldn't get him back to the practice squad.
Right.
So he might become more of the challenge to Benny Snell or Kalen Ballage than he is to Zach Gentry. So that's where the numbers you start to get a better feel after a couple exhibition games, preseason games.
Right. In terms of Benny Snell, Jim.
I didn't say that.
Sorry, Benny. It's very early here. In terms of Benny Snell, is there any speculation on what's going on with his injury? Or I heard it was an upper body. There hasn't been a lot of insight into what's going on with him because he's missed a significant amount of time.
It's in my notes. I believe it's an ankle.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Somebody else. Oh, Dotson has an ankle.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then in terms of Rader and Gentry, you know, I said after that game too, that there's a battle for that tight end 3 spot. And you have to wonder that if you cut any of those guys, are they going to be around to sign to the practice squad? Probably not, like you said, because there's a lot of talent and potential there. But it's good. It seems like across the board, the competition is hot at a lot of positions. That backup running back, I know Snell hasn't had a lot of carries, but Ballage, tight end, and then also backup quarterback. You know, there was a lot of hype going into that contest that Haskins potentially could compete for number 2. And really, I felt it was an average to maybe slightly below average output from both Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. What's your take on how that competition will unfold Thursday night against the Eagles?
Well, I don't know. Rudolph may have cemented. Everyone wants more from Rudolph, but he was completing passes, 6 of 9. He was getting passes off just ahead of being sacked. While at least I think he holds the ball too long. I think a lot of people agree with me. He was getting it off just in time, and they were completed. The fumble, it looked like it was Chase Claypool's fault, but where was the awareness? Neil O'Donnell in the Super Bowl. Yeah, okay, Hawkins didn't turn out. He turned in, and you expect him to turn out, but why did you throw the ball straight to Larry Brown?
Right.
Why did you try to hand off to a guy who was already past you, whether it was his fault or not? That's the lack of awareness, that we expect Mason to have that level. We expect him, and now in his third year, right? Third year?
Fourth year, I think.
Fourth year.
2018.
Yes, so we really expect a better level of awareness from the backup quarterback. But he's an accurate passer, and he understands the offense. And Haskins reverted back to his erraticism. He had a couple of great practices right before that game that led to some hype. Even I was admitting that he could pass Rudolph, and now I don't think so. It's however well he plays, it's going to be for next year and just a development thing. I think Rudolph is the number 2, unless he totally gacks,
Right.
in these coming games.
Right.
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, it felt like it just seemed those practices prior to that game, every other day he was making a big play in 7 shots, mobility, being able to move around. But yeah, just kind of, it felt like it fizzled, and then the practices following that contest, it didn't seem like he's been showing what he did in those other games. So
Right.
yeah, I would have to agree with you. If this continues, he's probably more likely to be the quarterback 3. However, Joshua Dobbs has played well, and Tomlin praised him after the game. So do you think Dobbs still has a chance for the roster, or do you think that it's a...
Well, you're going to praise a guy like him because he's such a class act. And he is taken his meager amount of reps with class. He's been demoted. It's an embarrassing situation, maybe. And Tomlin will go out of his way to praise him because he's a good person. He has good character, and he sees the sacrifice that Dobbs is making. Not that it's a sacrifice, but he sees the humbling it's been as they are committed to taking a long look at Haskins. We see the tools, and Dobbs just has accuracy issues with his short game. He did coming out of college. He was the worst rated quarterback with short passes, 0 to 3. Yeah. It's a weird thing. And it continues, but he played well, and it gives him a puncher's chance, especially with injuries. Injuries are always a possibility.
Right.
And everybody knows what a great guy he is. And he's a guy you want to have on your roster and on your team. So everyone's going to lean to Dobbs, but of course, Rudolph's the backup, and Haskins is the guy with all the tools. Haskins would have to really bomb out, I think, for them to give up on him at this point. So Dobbs is the odd man out.
Okay. The all-star of the game, special teamer, Presley Harvin, was just booming at that one punt that died on the 1-yard line. What was your perspective on his performance, and do you think he has cemented his roster spot as the starting punter for the Steelers this year?
Yeah, he would have to really soil himself to lose the job that they want to give him, that the owner of the team wants to give him. My understanding is the owner was responsible for bringing in Dustin Colquitt last year.
Okay.
And when everybody said, I'm not seeing it at his workout. They made the change anyway, and then the coaches were right. Colquitt didn't have it anymore, so Barry came back. So when they drafted that punter, the guy at the top wants the change.
Right.
And I mean, Harvin would have to be horrible at holding for placements, kicks. And, I'm saying he would have had to really be terrible before this scintillating performance he put on. And I don't know if he's capable. I don't know if that was just, if he was that good and the Ray Guy winner, which he was, he wouldn't have been a 7th round draft pick.
Right.
Those guys do go in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, 7th round. So it was great to see. And I thought the Gunners almost messed him up, because that punt that bit at the 1 yard line, that was staying there. That wasn't, it didn't need to be downed. It didn't need anybody to step on the end line. Didn't need anyone to kick it out of bounds. Just get back. And the ball did die. They did handle it.
It's almost like there was a ghost there waiting at the 1 yard line to just put its hands on it and hold it down. So that was very impressive. In terms of some of the younger guys, you hear Rico Bussie's name being thrown around out there, Calvin Bundage, Mark Gilbert at corner, who's played well. Any of the younger guys, the undrafted rookie free agents standing out to you, and any legitimate chance that they have to make the team?
I like Bundage in one-on-one drills, his physicality, along with Jameer Jones. And so I wanted to see those two in the game, and Jameer Jones showed. Calvin Bundage just blitzed from the inside every single play. He didn't get there, and I don't know that he showed something on a special teams kickoff. I believe he made a tackle. I don't think he showed anything on the field, and I noticed in practice this week they have him in coverage. So they've given him a second responsibility as opposed to just blitz Calvin.
Right.
I thought Jameer Jones was better. Jameer Jones maybe locked up a place on the practice squad as an outside linebacker. Mark Gilbert maybe makes the practice squad, but I think the corner to watch is Steven Denmark.
Okay.
He didn't really do much in the game, but I believe he is the top of that second tier. Justin Lane hasn't been cut yet. Justin Lane's in a battle with Denmark. I don't think Denmark's going to win that. But I think Denmark is going to be a high priority practice squad and potentially get called up first, whereas Gilbert would be a long-term practice squad guy. He shows a lot, his pedigree. We all know the Gilbert and Darrelle Revis family in the Aliquip area. He's a part of that family. So the pedigree, which Mike Tomlin loves pedigree, is there, and he's tall and he can run, and he shows in practice some stuff, but there's a rawness to him that I think needs a year of work. Okay. The other guy who played well, special teams. Oh, Shakira Brown. He only got credit for 1 tackle. It seemed like he made 3 tackles on kickoffs. He was held 1 time. Maybe that's one of the 3 I'm thinking of. He drew a holding penalty because he was the first one down. He has moved up a bit this week in practice. They're taking a serious look at him. Okay. So it's nice to see the result of what the coaches do in practice after you think, we as amateur talent evaluators think we see something, and then to see that guy get more responsibility at the next few practices it tells you, well, the coaches believe what I'm saying. They believe all the garbage I'm spewing. Right. So that was another good ball player there.
And then the last player, Rico Bussie, I know early on he was getting a lot of attention. I know Aditi Kinkhabwala, who covers the team for the NFL Network, came out and said he's the real deal, or a tweet along those lines. Have you seen similar things from him? He was pretty quiet in the game, but practice-wise, it's been said that he's played well.
Everybody's really trying to make a big deal out of these second-tier wide receivers. I don't see any room for them. I see five guys. McLeod is going to be kept as the 5th guy. I thought Matthew Sexton had a really nice punt return, and he's got 4.37 speed. And he looks to be everything they thought Ryan Switzer was. So he's another guy. Rico Bussie, he's a little small. You can see some of these physical corners ragdolling him, but he might be the best route runner and best overall hands receiver they have, but still he's small. Tyler Simmons might be their best special teamer, gunner, and so that helps him, and he made a play in the game. So Malcolm Johnson's showing a lot this week at practice with his size. So there are a variety of desserts that are on the table, whatever you need. for the practice squad. I just don't see any of them becoming the sixth guy unless Sexton continues to show as a punt returner. But they have Deontay Johnson, they have McLeod. I think they have their punt returners.
Right.
But 4.37 speed is not going to be denied, especially if you keep showing like Wes Welker. That's what they wanted Ryan Switzer to be, that interior zip guy.
Right.
So they may. I'm not as high on Bussie as others, or Dede or whomever.
Got it. So sticking with the wide receivers here before we just do a quick preview of the Eagles game. James Washington reportedly, according to Adam Schefter last Friday, wanted out of Pittsburgh, and then Tomlin addressed that on Saturday, said it's unfounded. The old maxim where there's smoke, there's fire. You think there's any truth to this report? And could you see?
That's where it helps. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
But that's where it helps to be a reporter who's there. I know it's big right now for everybody to be a reporter and write their blogs and rewrite other people's work and to diminish the role of the media with access. And that's fine. Nobody likes those guys. Nobody likes us. That's fine. And I get that. But I know James Washington, and that report really didn't sound right to me. It didn't sound like James Washington. Mm-hmm. And if he did approach for a trade, I'm sure he did it most humbly. Those who know James Washington demanding a trade, well, this will be quiet and this will be okay because I know James. He's a humble guy. He's a hardworking guy. He's a farmer, and then when Tomlin denied it, I have to side with that. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in this, where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe where there are too many reporters who are not there making up news. But James Washington has the ankle. When you said I was trying to think of who had the ankle. James Washington has the ankle.
Okay.
And so it's not going to be a problem. And, he's not a top three. This is a very good group of receivers. And he's not going to break that top three, but he has a lot of things he does right. And if there's an injury, man, he's perfect. Now, that's perfect. And that's what you want out of your fourth guy. Sorry that it has to be a guy that has been here paying his dues humbly and working hard and makes some incredible catches.
Yeah.
As he goes up and pulls it down, that's what he does well. So he's still a red zone guy.
Yeah.
But you want the depth. You don't want Ray McLeod being the number one guy to fill in for injuries.
Right.
Then you've got to keep Bussie. No, you got Bussie dressing every day, and So anyway.
Got it. All right. So closing this out, Jim, Eagles 7:30 this Thursday, second preseason contest. I know Tomlin said that Najee Harris is going to get some more snaps. He's not going to back off on his carries. But I guess your thoughts for the second contest. What are you looking forward to? And just a quick preview of the game.
Be careful believing all the things that are said at a Tomlin press conference. The question was put to him as kind of a challenge, and it's always challenging to Mike. I think he still has Willie Parker on his mind, run him till the wheels fall off, Le'Veon Brown not getting into the playoffs after a big year of heavy usage. So it's almost like a challenge. Are you going to back off of Najee Harris's carries? No. And he may. And my guess is he will. But the moment of the press conference, I just have a better feel for Mike. I'm not saying I get him totally, but I see everybody running with the specific words, like with Kevin Dotson. When Tomlin said he's not been working, doesn't mean he hasn't been working hard. Tomlin uses the word working as healthy and on the field and working with us in practice.
Right.
Not he hasn't been working hard. So that was taken the wrong way. And I feel like I have to explain all this stuff in my columns all the time that's taken by people who aren't there and don't really have a feel for the people because they haven't gotten to know them, which is what an accessed journalist does. He gets to know them. Like when Antonio Brown went crazy, everybody started blaming Ben. I said, no, Antonio's crazy. So, and it helped. And as it came out, people were like, wow, how did you know? Well, I'm there every day. I've
Right.
talked to Antonio every day and I know it's getting worse.
Mhm.
So anyway, this game, I haven't broken down the Eagles film. If you have specific questions, I can answer them. But Najee, I hope he doesn't play too much. I seen enough. I know what he's
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
Um, I want to see this line working. I want to see Dotson get some time.
Yeah.
Rashad Coward, I think I know who he is. He's going to be a valuable reserve for them. But I don't want him starting. If I'm a coach, I want to see Dotson more because I think Dotson can play, and I think he's been a hard worker. The defense, Trey Norwood is an interesting free safety type. He's not going to beat out Minka, but I think he's going to play a lot. And I did a little bit, why do all of these 7th round picks become championship free safeties? Look at this team. Hey, I don't know what round. I can't remember what round Jack Butler was drafted in the 50s, but that's a Hall of Famer, and he was a safety. I know he played some corner too. But you go into the Glenn Edwards was undrafted, 2 Super Bowl rings as a free safety. Mike Wagner was 11th round, 2 Super Bowl rings as a free safety. Darren Perry, 8th round, played in a Super Bowl. Ryan Clark, undrafted, Super Bowl champ, and played in another Super Bowl. Why, Mike? I asked Tomlin. Trey Norwood. He was playing in Minka's place this week at practice. Minka gets his rest, and they want to develop Norwood, get him to learn all the positions, and then give him a look-see at the nickel spot.
Mhm.
And Mike said, it's because it's an intangible position, and the things that they do well, free safeties, are not timed at the combine.
Right.
So we all know it's a cerebral position, and I want to see more of Trey Norwood, see if he's got that guy, see if he's got to tackle better from what I saw in college. So he had to tackle the first play was a rumbling wide open receiver, and he tackled him after 15 yards. He had to tackle the guy or it would have been a touchdown. But so Trey Norwood, I want to see more of. And the guys we've talked about, the practice squad, people right at Justin Lane's got to do something.
Mhm.
We've got to see more out of Justin Lane because it looks like Pierre has that next corner job locked down. We don't even have positions anymore. It's the corner who goes in when Sutton plays the dime.
Right.
So that's James Pierre's job, it looks like right now.
Right. Yeah, it's becoming a highly specialized game. Well, Jim, great insight as always. Great to talk to you today. Listeners, if you haven't purchased the Palomalo book yet, please make sure you do so. And also check out Jim's work on Still City Insider. I'll put that in the show notes. And then, Jim, looking forward to starting our podcast, The Steelers Insider. That should be coming soon. And hey, I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll try to catch up after this Thursday's game.
That's cool, Jeremy. I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this.
All right. Take care, Jim.
All right. See ya.
See you.